it's working.
For the folks in the gallery, if you want to rearrange yourselves out there as well, it's entirely appropriate to do that right now. In fact, we can put some music on, move some of the seats to see who's still standing. That's enough cheekiness for tonight. Thanks. It's been a while since I've had a chance to do this. So. I welcome you to what we often refer to as the less formal portion of the council meeting, the committee of the whole. I'll just quickly give you a rundown on the procedures for this, although looking out in the audience, I know most of you are familiar with how it works. Here's how it will work. I'll ask the clerk to introduce the item, after which council will be given an opportunity to ask questions of staff, and as we're on the platform this evening, I'll refer to this as stage left, and this will be stage right. I'll then ask the applicant to present his or her application, following which I will invite members of the public to come up and give us the benefit of your comments. If you want to address council, please come up to the microphone, give us your name, address, and we ask that you please keep your comments to within 5 minutes. After everyone's had an opportunity to speak, I'll ask the applicant to return to the mic to answer any questions that may have come up as part of the discussion. The matter will then be returned to council for a decision, and then we'll do the whole thing again when we get to the next item, until we run out of items, and then everybody gets to go on. So, with that, let's see if how things will go for number one. Madam Clerk, over to you. Oh, now your microphone doesn't work. Oh, this is good fun. Oh, you have a backup. Okay, I'll stop talking.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This first item on committee of the whole is 4111 Glendenning Road. It's a subdivision rezoning and application for waiver of the road frontage requirement. The report of the Director of Planning is recommending the Council approve the rezoning to the RS12 zone for a proposed subdivision to create one additional panhandle lot. Before Council can give final reading to this, there would be requirements for covenant that would require the proposed lot be extension of the sewer service and registration of a covenant on case of the property. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions from members of council? Seeing none, I will call upon the applicant to present the application.
Hello, my name is Mark Johnson, 1815 Belmont Avenue, and I represent Patricia Raffel, who is the owner of the property at 4111 Glendenning. Now, what you see on the screen is an image, and you have that same image in your report, and I think it best represents what's happening. First of all, this is a rezoning to accommodate the creation of one residential lot and rezoning to the RS12. So the residential lot that would be created would be a panhandle lot, and that's the lot in the rear, as you can see, that has the larger sample residence on it. It's a lot of about, for us in square feet, 14,000 square feet, or 1,303 meters squared. It is on the urban containment boundary, so the line is to the north of the property. Now, we're sympathetic to what happens in the transition area, where you have a transition on the boundary, because the properties up Glendenning on here are larger properties in a more rural setting. And in recognition of that, what we've done in working with the staff is agreed to covenants that will protect the existing trees on the site. And as a matter of fact, we believe, because there is a limit on the size of the house, a covenant that will limit the house size to 3,000 square feet, and it's in quite a large potential building envelope, that we could build the house without taking any of the trees out. By my count, there's 61 trees on the site. We may have to take one out, hopefully none. So the existing forest canopy would be retained on the site. As I said, we would create a panhandle lot, and the panhandle lot off of Glendenning, which is just to the north of the intersection with Mount Douglas Cross Road, would come up the existing driveway for the house that is in the front now. So we wouldn't be developing a new driveway, it would use the existing driveway. The driveway is at the intersection end of Glendenning. We have heard some concern about the potential traffic problems. Well, this is at the far end. No one's going to be driving down Glendenning to get to this property. You will come to that intersection, make a left, and make a right in. This isn't a development that would affect traffic down Glendenning. As well, there is a limit that we were asked to put on the size of the house. And we were asked by the Community Association to do that. We've agreed to that, and we'll enter into a covenant to limit the size of the house to 3,000 square feet. The RS12 zone does allow a house, I believe, up to about 7,000 square feet. But we're happy to limit it. We've also agreed that if the existing house, which will remain, we're not proposing to make any changes to the existing house, if it was demolished, we would also limit the size of a house that could be built on that lot as well. So what we've tried to do here is make sure that we don't build this to the maximum, that we respect the neighborhood and we respect the boundaries along the urban containment line, because someone always has to be on the edge, and we just happen to be on the edge. Now, we have worked with your engineering and your planning department to develop this plan, and we do need an extension of your sewer enterprise area. But in your community plan, that you allow that to exist or to happen if the property can be gravity fed, and this property can be gravity fed. There was a new development adjacent to this property a couple of years ago, and the sewer was extended, and there is a sewer extension and manhole near the intersection of Glendenning and Mount Douglas Cross Road that we can put a gravity sewer in down the driveway. When we put that sewer in, we service down the new driveway area. To protect the roots of the trees along the boundary, the arborist has developed a plan where we actually float the driveway. The existing driveway, actually, you drive over the roots of the trees. We hope to improve that situation to make sure we encourage the health of the trees on the boundary. So the arborist has devised a floating driveway, and we will install the floating driveway to protect the roots of the trees. We were also asked to develop for the new house some form and character design guidelines, which we did, and they're included in your package. Even though you won't really see the house from the road, because it will be behind the existing house, and there's a very large hedge as well that screens the existing house, we still have those guidelines in place that we will follow. Patty Raffel, who owns the property, hopes to build the house and live in the house. She's owned the property for 8 or 9 years now. She doesn't live in the small house in front, she rents that out, but her plan always is to subdivide the property, build a house for herself, and move into the house and again be a resident of the neighborhood. So this isn't a situation where I see some people thinking it's a developer. I don't know if that's a bad word or a good word, but in this case we simply have a woman who wishes to build a house and live in the house. We think it's a good proposal. It's supported by your staff, it's supported in your official community plan. We have discussed with the engineers any frontage or traffic issues that may occur. They haven't indicated they have concern over any traffic issues. When we get our building permit or our subdivision, we will do what's ever required in regard to the frontage along the road as well. That will be a condition. So we'll fulfill those conditions. I am here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you. Oh, I should show you. Where can I get along to? Can I go this way and do that? That's a picture of the rear yard, about where the house would be built. The 2 oak trees that are very close are the 2 that you see on the plan I showed you before. that would have the two X's. Those are the ones that may be the most difficult to keep, but we hope to be able to keep them by adjusting the house within the footprint. And those are the two shown in the middle. So you can see where the site would be built. That's the neighbor going down Glendenning. I'm standing about where the house would be built, looking up Glendenning at the neighbor at 4121. That was taken really this time last year. I think the bushes have grown up more now than they were then. As you can see, the site will not overpower the neighbor at all. It'll be quite some distance. Probably 12 to 15 meters would be as close as we would ever get to their residence. We might even be able to make it 20 meters if we adjust the house further away from it. And there is substantial screening between the two, all of which is protected. So I thank you very much for your time.
Councillor Haynes has a question for you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And I was reading with interest the idea of a driveway that protects the roots of the tree. I'm looking at your diagram here, and you have a crushed or drained rock layer. So, as I read it here, correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to scrape off the soil, and then over the top put some felt, and then over the top of that crush,
Right.
and then build up a level.
And put a felt on there, I believe, too, yes. Yes.
And that's been done in other places, and it's protected the tree.
Yes, that was a recommendation from our arborist. I'm not an arborist, but we had asked him what we could do in the driveway. Because if you go out there now, what you are doing, in many cases, you're bumping over roots. And he suggested that this had worked in other places, and you can see in the arborist report attached that he has a diagram showing how to do it, and he recommends that that be done, and he would inspect the installation and supervise that.
Well, and if you do need to remove the oak tree, what's your replacement?
I don't know if the municipality has a replacement. We'd hope we wouldn't have to remove any. We might have to remove one, but we'd be quite happy to make a contribution to a boulevard tree. 2 to 1, that's fine. That wouldn't be a difficulty at all.
Councillor Park.
Thank you. All right, I think we're in business. Must have been the operator himself. It's not so proficient. I just would be curious if this house that's being proposed in the back is incredibly in a shady area, because one of the things that I'm always piqued to see is the potential for solar in the future, and the roughing in of solar as a potential thing to include in this potential additional house, if that's an issue because of the shade.
It could be. Actually, when you stand there, one of the advantages of this site is it's quite an open area in the rear where the house would be built. As you can see there, it's quite open, so that's why you don't have to remove many trees. So there may be an opportunity for that, especially if we're able to move the house further south. And we have quite a bit of room in the building envelope to do that. So yes, we could do that.
Yeah, it's something that
Yeah.
I'm inclined to think that every residence that's being built in Santa should have that preparation for the future. Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions from members of council? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll now call upon any member of the public who'd like to provide council with their comments on this application. Just a reminder that we ask that you please keep those to within 5 minutes.
Members of council, my name is Ed Polinsky. I live at 4198 Glendenning Road. I have a couple of issues with this. The gentleman is right in that traffic coming onto Glendenning will not be affected. Traffic going off of Glendenning is affected. I've lived there 47 years, and it's a pain right here every time I try to get off Glendenning. I really think if there was room, we should have a roundabout there. I don't know if there's room, but there is, probably very close, it should be looked into. Also, I think about 3 years ago, maybe 4, the lady that owns the property came around and we signed a form saying, yeah, we're in favor of it. Well, we aren't now. There's too many things have happened. And I'm afraid that it will change the integrity of the street. Okay? Most of the houses on the street have at least an acre, and it's single-family houses. One across from us, not sold about 2-3 years ago, was torn down and actually a very nice house put in there. I'm totally in favor of that. It'll end up happening to all the places on our street just because of it. It's a very special street. I don't know what can be done. My heart goes out to the lady that owns it, but what people say and what they do are two different things quite often. She might want to live there, and maybe she will, but maybe she won't. And if it turns into 2 rental properties, 2 rental houses on that property, I won't like it, and most of the people on our street won't like it. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark Adams again, I spoke earlier. Just a quick comment, not directly on Glendenning, but nearby on Mount Douglas Crossroad. I happened to be just visiting a little flower stand there, and I noticed the traffic was actually very fast for such a small and with a couple of blind corners. So I wonder if, excuse me, engineering could have a look at that, see if it's possible to slow it down, excuse me, at some point. Thank you.
Hi, Martin Simmons, 1620 Christmas Avenue. This is the first time I've heard about this. This is just a general comment about such developments. In my neighborhood, there have been 2 developments recently where the people who came up and proposed them and did them said, yes, we're going to live there. And in both cases, one was plots were subdivided into a duplex and 2 houses. And quite recently, very soon after the houses were built, multiple for sale signs showed up. So every time they said they were going to live there, yes, it's for us, the houses were soon flipped. So that's just a comment, based this regarding what people say and what they do. Okay, thank you.
My name is Lois Messner. I've been a resident of 4121 Glendenning, of which you saw the sign, for 45 years. I own 1.9 acres, and my home borders on 411 Glendenning Road. I did not hear that this was to come up at the council meeting until informed by a neighbor, nor have I been aware of previous meetings by the owner of 4111 Glendenning for neighbors to attend. I am opposed to this application. I have concerns about the environmental damage impact on both the affected property and my property. Also, my ongoing concerns with the current state of the existing dwelling, which the plan states will be left. My environmental concerns are, despite the report, the additional proposed dwelling would overshadow my home, block existing views and sunlight. The narrow strip of trees bordering our properties and my property are mandatory for windthrow, and this was an expressed concern by the park staff. The environmental impact would be severe on both properties, with removal of even a few trees and the inevitable construction damages to root systems of existing trees, including those trees very close to my property. I've always maintained these trees with great care, as well as those on the property line. I have many ongoing concerns with the application, stating that the existing dwelling is retained, and the potential of a shared driveway, and the references to social and environmental components in the application. If this application is approved with another dwelling being added to the property, I am apprehensive and concerned about the long-standing problems which have affected the existing dwelling. To be very vivid, the existing dwelling is consistently and steadily deteriorating. It has been a rental property for several years and turns over frequently with various occupants. I am concerned about the current driveway, which should be a shared driveway with a new dwelling. At present, there are many cars that go in and out of the current driveway. There are many licensed and unlicensed vehicles parked on the rental property, which adjoins my lawn, which I do maintain. There is much environmental damage to the lawn between the two properties from the activity of the cars, and the grass has been completely eradicated. With the addition of another new home, this shared driveway would become even more damaged and disruptive to neighbors, because the adjoining lawn is being used as a parking area as it is now. It has been extremely challenging for me to live next to this property, as I have been impacted and suffered with the occupants. Specific examples are unattended garbage on the ground, rusting items visible and littering the adjoining lawn. There was an old rusting immobile lawnmower left for many months, which everybody viewed as they went by. The grass is rarely mowed, the leaves are never raked. This creates a severe fire hazard and safety issue. The unattended garbage left on the ground frequently blows over to my property. As a registered nurse, I am very keenly aware that this creates health hazards, as well as a disrespect of my time to clean the refuse. Given these factual observations of 4111 Glendenning, I strongly oppose the application submitted for both environmental, social, and safety concerns, and I thank you for your consideration.
Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Aidos. I live at 1500 Montauk. I'm a neighbor with the property, and I do support application. I think this is very nice development and development, and it's going to bring a lot into the property and to the neighborhood. Thank you very much.
My name is Barry Loucks. I live at 4160 Glendenning Road. I would like to speak against this proposal for two main reasons. Firstly, on its west side, this property is across the street from ALR land. Every property on the west side of Glendenning Road is in the ALR and forms part of the boundary of the Blenkinsop Valley. Also, on its east side, this property has just one property between it and the ALR land. That ALR land is subject to an application for exclusion from the ALR, but as far as I know, the final outcome of that application has not yet been determined. All of the properties on the east side of Glendenning are large, including this property, and they provide a buffer between the ALR and residential neighborhoods. Buffering has often been cited as the preferred method of edge planning to avoid distress between residential and agricultural properties. Glendenning Road is an example where such buffering has occurred. We are all aware of how residential encroachment on ALR land can deteriorate the agricultural viability of that land. To subdivide this property would increase densification immediately adjacent to the ALR land, and would also contravene the Saanich OCP, which has the following recommendation. Buffer rural and agricultural lands from adjacent urban residential development as part of redevelopment and subdivision proposals where appropriate. Although all of the properties on both sides of Glendenning Road are large, in the 38 years that we have lived there, there has not been one subdivision. Secondly, Glendenning is a beautiful, winding, tree, rural-like road, about which the residents care very deeply. They are passionate about not altering the ambience of this road, which densification could do. Former Councillor Carol Pickup once said at a council meeting that when Glendenning Road was constructed, Saanich got it right. The planning report states that at the time of writing, 3 neighborhood letters had been received. In your agenda package, however, there are actually letters written by 4 different neighbors, with 3 in opposition, and as you've heard tonight, the one that was supporting has withdrawn that support. So there are 4 in opposition. I believe that at least neighbors from 6 different Glendenning properties have now communicated with you their opposition. On closing, I would like to ask a question. The planner's report states that the property is one of two on Glendenning Road that are identified in the Gordon Head local area plan for inclusion within the sewer service boundary, an application is serviceable by gravity. My interpretation of the Gordon Head local area plan shows that this is the only Glendenning property matching that description. The point being that if true, then this is actually a unique situation on Glendenning and is not supported by other precedents. If the property to the south is the second one being referred to, it is not on Glendenning Road, but on Mount Douglas Cross Road. No properties on Glendenning Road are presently within the sewer enterprise boundary. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Patty Brothel. I'm the owner of 4111 Glendenning. I've been waiting to go forward with the plan to subdivide my property for quite a few years. Mostly because the residents in the neighborhood, I know they don't really want this to happen, and there's been a lot going on as well. The people across the road subdivided and so on. I was born and raised in Victoria. I've raised my girls here. And when I came across the property on Glendenning, I fell in love with it because it is a beautiful street. And I fully intend to keep it as beautiful as it is now. I just want to build a nice little house in the back. And I would like to put one of my daughters in the front house. So all the, the untidiness of the property has been, because I haven't really wanted to do a whole lot of landscaping to the property in the meantime, because I'm hopefully going to be changing everything. So my plan is to keep all the trees if I can. The one tree that might be in question would be taken out with great care. I do not want to damage any trees. I would like to keep the buffer as it is now. And the street, the front, it shouldn't look any different than it is at this time. So I hope you consider my application, and thank you very much.
I think Councillor Dermott has a question for you.
Oh.
Thank you, Sheriff, for you. We've heard from a neighbor that the property is not being well kept up and problems with renters and so forth. As the owner of the property, could you explain to me why you haven't addressed that?
Well, I've actually been away for quite some time. My daughter had twins and she lives in Calgary, so I have been away part of the time. I was aware of some garbage problems which were dealt with. I bought another garbage can for my tenant, and they have been keeping it clear. I was just over there the other day, and there is no garbage on the ground. There's 3 garbage cans in a row and another piece of plywood in the driveway. The front yard has been mowed. The grass is pretty much yellow because it's not being watered. But the very back half of the property, he doesn't mow the back half. So I can certainly spend more time over there if possible. I'm just a single person, so and I'm not very well to do, so I don't have the funds to hire a landscaper. But I'd be more than happy to go over and talk to my tenant and request that he allows me to do more work on the property. He says he likes to do it himself, but if he needs some help, then I'm very happy to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Your Honorable Mayor, Councillor, staff, Ken Whitcroft, 1044, resident of Sandwich for 53 years and concerned one. Basically, I'd like to just make the comments that this is the local area plan of 2008, and these recommendations that are in there probably came from the previous local area plan, so these planning decisions were probably made probably 10, 15, 20 years ago, if you really think about it. So, but also I just want to make some comments from the planner's report. Getting old. Basically, under the climate change and sustainability policy context, it says climate change is generally addressed through mitigation strategies and adaptation strategies. Climate change mitigation strategies involve actions designed to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases, primarily carbon dioxide from combustion. While climate change adaptation involves making adjustments and preparing for observed and expected climate change to moderate harm and to take advantage of new opportunities. And if we go down into the climate change, it says the proposal is an infill development and is able to use existing roads and infrastructure. Well, the thing is that as we know, it's cars that are creating this carbon dioxide mostly. And basically when we look at this site, this is car oriented. It's 800 meters to transit on Mackenzie. You're not going to take a bus and then walk with groceries that far. We need to move forward, and these are one of the things that with climate change, we can't continue to do this kind of infill development because it's really not sustainable. We're going backwards. We're not actually fixing solutions to get rid of the climate change. We're actually just continuously to create more and more of problems with this. So it's something to consider that we have to look at when we make these decisions now. I mean, the local area plans need to be updated, and this is one of the reasons why. So it's just something to consider. Thank you.
Mark Adams again. Just looking at the map for this one, I noticed it's at the corner of...
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm forgetting that you have already addressed council on this item, and we asked that...
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.